So long-term holders have offloaded 405,000 Bitcoin in the past 30 days. That is huge. You just say, yeah, if we have a look here, the net position change. So massive offloading here between, I reckon that's, so the Trump pump was over here, and there was big old inflows there. Excuse me, there were big old outflows at the Trump pump, and then we had some big inflows on the way back up again, and then big outflows again. So there's a very clear kind of accumulation distribution happening here. Unfortunately, we're kind of at the whim of these sellers. The buyers aren't strong enough to just absorb all this supply and, you know, push us higher. But that said, and I'm going to read Checkmate's on-chain summary today because I think it's really important. But he often says, and it does look to me as well, that 100,000 is slowly, in a big sense, being used as this floor. You know, it's that support level, it's a psychological level, 6-figure Bitcoin. We're seeing if that is strong enough to hold. And once it does hold, you know, all these big sellers coming in keeps getting pushed back up. The buyers come in and hold that level. Are we going to duck a little bit below 100K to really create some, you know, panic, these big sellers coming in, and then, you know, everyone buys underneath? I guess that's what we have to wait and see whether those support levels can hold again. I'm waiting for these constructive weekly closes above certain levels because really we are still range bound here, and it feels like sentiment is absolutely in the gutter. You almost like these bear market lows, and I can see it's drifting a little bit around that 107 level. So we could maybe test that 102, 103 region pretty soon. Okay, I do want to look at the USDT dominance as well at some point. I did want to show you this for the longer term picture because I think the Russell 2000, we haven't looked at it in a while, and I said I was going to do a chart, so I wanted to bring it up for you guys. Now let's move that across so we can see. Perfect. So the Russell 2000, I probably mentioned it before, but it represents a lot of those smaller companies in the United States, the US economy. It represents the business cycle. So when the Russell 2000 is pumping, so this is the index of those 2000 companies in the smaller economy, when this is moving higher, the business cycle is generally moving higher. The economy is doing quite well. It's like with the ISM, when we see it above 50, which we haven't seen yet. When the Russell's going, what do you know? Bitcoin's going. So Bitcoin over here, if we have a look, just move that chart so it's a little bit easier to see. More in line. So November 20. So Bitcoin ramped, the Russell ramped. The Russell topped when Bitcoin topped. Where are we over here? So the Russell found a high over here, had a really big drawback when Bitcoin had a drawdown. Let's see if that's in line. Yes, that's in line. And now they are both sort of breaking out of these longer term patterns, and they're coming back down to retest. The Russell 2000 looks like it's about to go on a tear, in line with the business cycle, in line with the rate cuts, in line with everything we're looking at the moment in terms of, okay, are we going through a rate cutting regime, or are we going through a looser monetary policy regime with more liquidity, more speculation? Well, that's all ahead of us. We're not going into a negative period like we were let's say at the back end of 21 when inflation reared its ugly head. This is gearing up for a huge injection of liquidity in a business cycle that's really strong. So Bitcoin here following more the business cycle than it is anything else. And like Raoul Paul says a lot, this looks more delayed than anything. And I tend to agree with that. So this does look like follow through. This looks like very heavy. This is a nice looking candle if you were to invert this. Sometimes it's good to just invert things and have a look how they look maybe on the opposite side. This is a pretty bullish setup actually. It looks like it's wanting quite easily, going to come up here into support levels, 105. 102.8, that seems very obvious there. Does it get up to that 82? I mean, that would be a big drop for Bitcoin, honestly. But, anything's possible. But again, we're looking here just sensibly. Let's think soberly through it. Where are the levels where we expect bulls to really defend things? And if they don't defend things, that's where we need to pivot and adjust our view here. But that 50-week moving average, which I use as that guide, has moved up to 103. So last week, obviously the moving averages move up with the price action. So 103.060, that's the level, 102, 103. I really want us to hold that. We can punch through it, but it all matters when whether we close back above it. So we've got the 10 monthly MA sitting at 102. We've got the weekly 50 sitting at 103. That level is just going to be very strong. We hope it's very strong. Again, if it's not, if buyers don't step in, we're in trouble. Bitcoin, we know, is very sensitive to liquidity conditions, and we've seen, again, talked about it a lot.